All right. It says that we are live. I am just checking to make sure. Okay. I can see that we are on IG. Let me check my YouTube. And we're going to check LinkedIn and just make sure that we are live, everybody. If you are here with us, go ahead and tell us where you are joining from. Say hi in the comments so we can make sure everything is working, because we definitely want to make sure everything is working. Y'all, we were struggling a little bit with this technology, okay? So I want to make sure that everything is working. Y'all go ahead and say hi in the comments. Oh, listen to me. All right. Yes. Okay. We do see people. Okay. Yes. Hi. How are y'all? Are y'all excited for tonight? Because I'm excited. I am excited. I'm excited. All right. So I think we're good. I know we started a little bit, tad bit late. Like I said, we had a little bit of technical difficulties. But again, I'm just excited that we are here. I'm excited that Pam is here with us today. I'm just going to kind of let everybody know this is our first interview live from Wealthy Employees. This will not be our last interview live from Wealthy Employees. And really and truly, I kind of want to just give y'all a little bit of background about me, about Wealthy Employees, if this is your first time joining us, because I know that, again, this is our first live. So Wealthy Employees was birthed from me, Jessica Hudson, given to me by God. Actually, I think just from even just childhood, I've always really was interested in finances. I was always interested in learning more and improving my lifestyle and the lifestyle of my family, and just making sure that we were always going to be in a good place. And so just throughout college, just throughout my life, I have been through I've always been learning more about financial literacy. It really started in college, in my junior year in college, where I was introduced to a personal finance course, and from there, I just soaked it up and took off. I soaked it up and took off. Wealthy Employees just turned one on the 13th of this month, so about 2 weeks ago, and it really is just a place for everybody to join that is an employee, to really understand that building wealth in your 9 to 5 is possible. A lot of people don't feel like they can. A lot of people feel like just building wealth in general is just not something that they can accomplish. And I really want to make sure that everybody understands that is a wealthy employee and that joins the community, that it is possible for you as long as you start. Because I think that it starts with the mind. If you believe that you can see it, you will more likely work towards it, and then you will more likely achieve it. But there's those, again, it's that stigma around being an employee and not being able to build wealth, is the hurdle that we need to overcome and make sure that we can see past that. So yeah. With today, we are going to be talking about retiring, because our special guest here, Pamela, was able to successfully retire early from her government position. And when I heard this story, it was just like, Pamela is just she is the wealthy employee, okay? She is the wealthy employee, okay? She's no longer an employee, but she is the wealthy employee that I really just hope to see out of the clients that do join the community, because we're going to get into it. But I mean, just see her in her journey, just seeing how she took the information and the advice that she was given and really leveraged it, maximized it. Just again goes to show you that wealth can be built as an employee. So yeah, so without further ado, I want to make sure that we get into it. Make sure everybody, if you are not, go ahead and drop any comments, any questions. Make sure to engage in the comment sections, because we definitely want to make sure that everybody is getting their questions answered and everything as we go through this interview. So Pam, if you just want to kind of introduce yourself a little bit to everybody, just so that we can kind of go ahead and get started, that'd be great.
Well, hello, everybody. I am so excited to be on in this interview on this evening and to be able to share with you my journey. It has been a journey. It continues to be a journey. I am, as she said, a federal employee retiree, and I did it early. And I don't. I'm trying to parse out because I know we're going to do the actual interview, but I did it early. I ended up doing 27 years, which for me, still at my age, is still early because you often with retirement plans you have to have the years and the age, and so I was definitely not at the age to retire, but I did it. It was something I set my mind to do, and I did it. And I look forward to just sharing with you some of the things that I did along the way. I'm married, I have 3 young adult children. I'm in the Washington, D.C. metro area. So that's a little bit about my background.
Yes, yes. Okay. All right. So, my first question. I know you said that you put in a couple of years, you put in 27 years, which is no small feat.
Right.
But again, it is still early for your retirement age. So, you did start early in working with the federal government, right?
Yes.
Um, and so my first question really is, what, and I think this is what everybody's waiting for. What was it that, what was the strategy that you used to retire?
Oh boy. So I would say if I had to pinpoint from this particular things, because I did have several things and it all worked together. But
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that stood out the most that really catapulted things was investing in real estate.
Mm-hmm. And
Yes.
how did you decide? You know, you're working your 9 to 5, you're working a government job. What made you decide, you know what? I kind of want to invest in real estate. What made you pivot into investing in real estate? Was there any type of did you go to like a seminar?
Mhm.
Did you just wake up one day? Like talk us through a little bit about how
Yeah.
you went into that avenue, because I know a lot of
Absolutely.
people are interested, but they really, they just like, what? I don't know where to
Yeah.
start. So what made you
Oh
start
gosh. Right.
investing? Hmm.
Well, I was fresh into the government, so it happened very early on. So I had got my government job, and I got married shortly thereafter, like the very next year. And so my
Hmm.
job was straight out of college, got the job, got married. And then we were both living in apartments. That's how we met, living in the same apartment complex. And so we decided,
Hmm.
that we wanted to look into home ownership. And with looking into it, my dad, I was talking to him, and he said, you know what, Pam, you should get a place in which you can live in one part and rent the other out.
Mm.
And, rent in one part, rent the other out, and really basically a 2-unit building, at least at a
Hmm.
2 units. And so I heard that, it stuck with me.
Mm.
And that's how we targeted our search
Mm.
for duplexes, we call them. Some people call them duplexes or 2-unit
Hmm.
apartment buildings here in the Washington, D.C. area. And that's how we and that ended up being what we did purchase.
Hmm.
And
As
we
your
did
first property.
it as our very first property,
Mm.
very first property. And we purchased it and we did exactly what he said. We lived in the bottom unit. So we purchased it, there was 1 unit vacant. So we lived in that unit, and then the other one was being rented by a tenant. And her
Mm.
rent was around about enough to pay for the mortgage.
Mm.
Yeah, sometimes,
Mm.
that might not be the case, but you're still reducing your housing payment so much, even if it doesn't cover the entire mortgage.
Right.
It reduces it because our housing expense is usually our greatest expense.
Hmm.
So when we can find a way
Right.
Trim it down, cut it out, whatever. It makes a huge difference in what we can do with the rest of our money.
Right. And that, so you said a whole bunch in just that one section.
Okay, okay.
You said a whole bunch in that one section. So I want to make sure we kind of back it up a little bit, right?
Okay.
Because the first thing that I picked from that was that you sought guidance from your father, right?
Yeah.
And I know that I'm not saying that everybody has their parents around with them or may not have that figure, but you sought that guidance. And it's not that you just sought the guidance and listened to what he said, it's that you actually took it and applied it, which
Mm-hmm.
then, like you said, catapulted you into a whole different life. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, a
Right.
whole different life, a whole different strategy for your life. Like you took what it was that he gave you and said, you know what, we're going to do this, And another thing that I got from that was the teamwork that you
Mm-hmm.
were working side by side with your husband. You all both came into agreement with this and you said,
Yeah.
I know that for most people, myself included, I was like, look, the first house need to be it because I don't want to move, right? I just want to
Uh-huh.
let's just get this house and let's be done with it, right?
Right.
But you can see, I'm pretty sure, was that your first option? Was that really your first option when you wanted to go looking for homes?
You mean prior to speaking with my dad?
Prior to speaking with your dad, was
You
that
know,
your thought process?
she was just a regular, you buy a house and you move in and that's where you live. And,
Right.
the accomplishment is that you own the home, which is
Hmm.
nothing to sneeze at. That is a great accomplishment. But yeah, it was just the usual.
Right. It was just the
Hmm.
usual. But
Hmm.
you all said, you know what? We think this is a great idea because we're going to be making income
Hmm.
while living in the house, and even though it may not have been your dream house, you
Hmm.
you I wouldn't say settled or sacrificed because I really don't feel like that's what it is. I mean, because that's what you all decided to do.
Right.
And you came into agreement with that because you seen the bigger picture. You
Yes.
know, it was an investment, really and truly is what it was. It was just an investment into the future that you actually wanted. So
Yeah.
sometimes investing in the things that may not look like anything as of right now is really, oh, that's a Holy Spirit there, is really going to catapult you into the life that you want to be living. So I think that even just for, I'm not even going to say younger generation because there's some people out there that don't have their first home yet. I feel like this is a great way to get into real estate because you're able to, I mean, how hard was that process? Let me ask you that. How hard was the process? I know that there was two of you, but do you feel like it was a difficult process to buy a multifamily home versus?
It really was not. It
Mm,
really was not. It was the same process.
mm-hmm,
Now, when you buy from 1 to 4 units,
mm-hmm,
it's pretty much the same as if you were purchasing a regular home, and
right,
that you can still take advantage of FHA financing if you need to, which
mm-hmm,
is usually where you have the lesser amount of down payment required,
right,
and the interest rates are usually pretty competitive. So
mm,
you can still do that. You're not, because once you go above 4 units, it's considered commercial, and
right,
that's when you have to have a different kind of financing.
right,
So yes, it mimics kind of like the regular home ownership route, especially if you're going to be an owner occupant.
right,
Is exactly what we were going to be, owner
right,
occupants. And so therefore it was just as if you were buying a regular house. It's just
mm-hmm,
that you were going to have, additional units or an income from it. So yeah, the process pretty much was the same, especially because we were owner occupants.
right. And see, and that's the other thing. It's like,
Mhm.
it wasn't like it was a hard process. It wasn't
Mhm.
anything difficult. And I
Mhm.
think that that's sometimes, again, making sure that we seek that guidance, right? But also taking that advice, from just other realtors or people in the know. So
Mhm.
if you are looking for, a single family, I mean, not a single family home, for a multifamily home, just like you say,
Mhm.
FHA,
Mhm.
FHA, FHA loans you're able to put down a little bit less,
Mm-hmm.
and being an owner occupant, again, it's really a very smooth process for you. It's just the
Mm-hmm.
same as if you were buying another house. The only
Mm-hmm.
other aspect of it is just making sure that you have a tenant. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that some people are like, well, I don't want to have to deal with nobody else or anything like that. But
Right.
let's talk about that. How,
Sure.
uh,
I said, sure.
right.
So
How
mhm.
this, now this property came with a tenant.
This one came with a tenant. So some people, you can see it can be advantages both ways, okay, or disadvantages. It can be. So having come with the tenant, especially for us as new home buyers, it kind of was like, okay, that's a piece we didn't know how to do per se. So
Mm-hmm.
that coming in place kind of made it a little easier. But for some people, and we've had it in other properties that we had, inheriting the tenant it can be a little challenging because
Right.
depending on the rent laws where you are, you might not be able to get them out very easily if they're not a
Right.
good tenant. So those are some considerations for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Property management, it can be done by yourselves. We did it ourselves, but
Mm-hmm.
you can hire a property management company to do it for you if you want to be more hands off. Now, and just appear like you're just a regular tenant because now, mind you, in this situation, you're living in the place with the person, so you might not want to them to know that you are their landlord.
Right.
So if you want to keep it all like it's not me, nobody knows, then you can have someone else manage it for you. And often
Mm-hmm.
property management fees are usually about 10%
Right.
of the rent, of the rent. So
Right.
that's definitely something to consider. I can see
Mm-hmm.
it as being a little bit of a like, oh, I don't know, but it's certainly something that you can do, and it does not have to be difficult. The more
Right.
systematized you are, organized you are, it
Mm,
certainly helps a lot.
right. And so with that, I understand, of course, I mean, you don't have to be your own property manager, and even if you are your own property manager, you still don't even have to tell the neighbor that it's you.
You
You know,
really
you can operate out of a business or whatever the case is, and you could, say your name is something else. I mean, or
that's
in
true.
your case, you had your spouse, so you
Mhm,
could also have them be, the property manager or whomever, and kind of remove yourself from it, kind of split it.
mhm.
I mean, there's multiple ways to do it, right? But
Yes.
the other question I wanted to ask is
Mhm,
long did
mhm.
you how long did you stay in this home as an owner occupant before moving on to the next one?
We stayed about 2 years.
Mm,
We stayed about 2 years and then we moved on because it was a 3 bedroom actually, so it was 2 3 bedroom units, so it was enough space. We did have my first child, my son, while there, but then
mm-hmm,
I became pregnant again, and so I was kind of like, and actually the neighborhood was a little bit
mm-hmm,
and so I think with me becoming a mom and a new mom, I
mm-hmm.
got kind of nervous and I was like, oh,
Right,
I'm gonna move to the suburbs.
right.
In hindsight, I was like, we could have stuck it out longer. But anyway,
Stuck it a
you
little bit
know.
longer, saved up a little bit more money,
Yeah,
but
yeah. But we did 2 years. We did 2 years. We
okay.
kept the
And
building. But
and
yeah,
it was what?
we kept the building, but I only lived there. We only lived there for 2 years
Right,
as owner
right.
occupants. Hmm.
So within your 2 years and living there, you
Hmm.
were able to go ahead and scale and go ahead and get another property,
Hmm.
right? Now
Yes.
your job didn't change during this, right? I'm assuming
Mhm.
your pay may have increased, maybe with the
We did
bonuses
agree.
or whichever or cost of living.
Hmm.
Um, but you all only did this for 2 years. That's not a long time.
Not a long time.
That is not a long time to build equity. Like you were
Mhm.
able, I want to make sure that I understand. How were you all able to move on to the next property? Were you all saving the income, the rent that came from the house, or did you all pull out equity from the home, or what was your process in doing that?
I'll be very honest. The second purchase was a house, just
Hmm.
a regular single family, nice house, 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath type house. And we had, a level of comfort,
Mm-hmm.
but primarily the down payment for that next house came out of my husband's retirement money
Okay.
for the next house.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we have gotten money out of that first property so many times.
Times. Yes.
It didn't serve the very next purchase, but honey, it has served many more. Yes,
Yes.
it served many more.
Yes, many more properties. And see, that's the thing too, because I mean, even though it didn't serve you all in the beginning per se, there are some times where you can get into a market and it can serve you for
Yes,
your next properties. Like
right.
if you get into a booming market, in two
Hmm.
years, listen, you could really have enough equity to really buy another home. So
Yeah.
that's definitely something to think about too, because yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much equity you all accumulated, or I know you said it was a second property. I mean,
Hmm.
a single family home
Hmm.
that you all purchased next, but that's definitely something that you can work with if you are in the right market and your equity does grow significantly enough. Even
Hmm.
if the rent is not even if the rent is not able for you to save up enough. But
Right.
even still, now, so after you all bought that second property, now you're on to having an open investment, open side. Your side of the
Yes.
duplex was
Yes.
open now to
Yes.
rent.
It was
So now
open.
you're earning even more income.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yes, we did. We did.
Hmm.
We were. Absolutely, we were. And so that has always just been an additional income stream in that
Right.
property, because no matter what mortgage amount we went to, it was always still more than,
More.
yeah, the rent was always still more. There was a positive cash flow that was usually pretty significant. Yeah.
And that's the good thing, because see, even because now you said that just the one tenant on that one side was
Hmm.
almost pretty much covering
Hmm.
the mortgage. So
Hmm.
the second one, sorry y'all, my dog over here. Go sit down. He ready to eat. But now the second one, now that you have both sides rented, now you're able to really get some money and some income, and for it to cover itself, but
Yeah.
also still cover the second house that you all just bought, the
Hmm.
second property. So so
But it's some twists and turns along the way, though,
it
people. It is, but yes, go on.
But overall,
Yes,
this one decision that you
absolutely.
made to listen to your father's advice, I mean,
Hmm.
you had income coming in from one side. You already provided a tenant, right? So
Hmm.
even if that tenant still had 3 months or so on that lease, you still had time to kind of figure out the lease and all of those good things,
Hmm.
and try to navigate kind of becoming a property manager,
Hmm.
or not if somebody
Right.
wants to. But then you also when you left, you're still getting income on that. Like now
Yes.
you're getting so much more income. So just like I said, just the one piece of advice that you took and ran with was able to start building so much wealth for you and
Yes.
start building that other stream of income. And you really didn't do anything different
Hmm.
besides what you were going to do anyway, which was purchase property,
Yep.
right? So,
Yeah.
so I
Absolutely.
mean, let's talk about this too, right? So
Okay.
as you all were getting that income, and I know you said that you used your husband's retirement
Hmm.
income for the second property
Hmm.
as the down payment, right?
Hmm.
What was it looking like in your retirement income for your work? Or like how were you all navigating investing the money that you all were getting from this cash flow?
Oh boy, how are we navigating that money? Well, with children, to be honest with you, it just kind of helped, because there were some things along the way. There was a period where my husband was unemployed. There were different challenges that arose along the way where we had to kind of like, it was just used kind of like to just help us meet all of our needs sometimes, as opposed to really positioning us immediately for retirement. Um, so yeah, there were times when that occurred, but we had that income to help us during those lean times. Because things happen. It wasn't all beautiful. There were ups and downs and twists and turns. But ultimately, and then I had 3 children in childcare. That's a whole mortgage in and of itself because I did continue to work. I did not come home.
Right.
So, there were times where it was just helping us to be able to maintain everything. But then, of course, the years go on and we were able to take that money and reinvest that money into other properties. And it wasn't way, way down the line because my children were still younger. But yeah, so there got to a point where we were able to take that money and then so that was our first property. But then my fire was lit for real estate investing as a whole.
Right.
So real estate investing became a thing. So it was like,
Right.
okay, now what are we gonna do? We have our own home, and with our own home, that's when things kind of went through some twists and turns. Our own primary residence, but once that settled down,
Mm-hmm.
because I just tell y'all, because I want y'all to know things happen. So that second house, once we got in there, I told you my husband ended up losing job. We were just house poor. We ended up saying, you know what? Ain't nobody paying, because you kind of have a little pride about it. Everybody gonna know we just moved into this house because we didn't stay there
Right.
for 2 years too. And we
Mm.
was like, you know what? Ain't nobody paying these bills but us. We're moving up out of here. We moved up out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Stayed with a friend momentarily, bought a less expensive home.
Mm.
And then that home appreciated.
A lot.
And we were able to get out of that one that had us house poor. We just kind of break even nothing. But then we
Okay.
moved to that next one that was smaller and everything. And the market started turning some, and we made a nice little bit of equity off of that one. And then that is just like stuff started turning. We took that,
Rolling.
and then we started getting into flipping properties, and we were attending real estate seminars. So let me
Look,
stop.
look, 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 look. Hold on. Okay. So, all right, let's back up because I want to make sure that everybody is catching this, right? So, and I caught it in the sense of you all left a comfortable situation, uncomfortable. You all left a comfortable situation living in the duplex, right? To get a bigger house. But then
Mm-hmm.
you became house poor in
Mm-hmm.
that bigger house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of different circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
children and losing of the jobs and everything like
Mm-hmm.
that, right? But the blessing in that is that you all realized that you were house poor, that you did pull out possibly too much, that you all were living above your means, right? And so in even that's something else that people can take away from here. What I really want people to take away from here is that you don't have to be house poor, right? You don't want to go into getting the most amount of money that you're able to get out and all of this stuff and become house poor because again, in your case, thank God you did have the duplex
Yes.
to supplement with that income, but some people don't because like I
Right.
said, remember most people are going into it like, oh, I'm just gonna get a single family home and
Mm-hmm.
that's it. So if that was the case for a lot of people who try to, um get their big first time house or whatever the case is, or not get a starter home or live comfortably or live within their means, this is something that can happen, right? You may have to end up selling your property, breaking even, and still going back to
Mm-hmm.
downsizing to live within your means. So I think that just starting off with, again, not necessarily settling, but investing
Mm-hmm.
early, right? So that you
Mm-hmm.
can actually retire the way that you want and live the way that you want in the shorter term is going to
Yes.
be better for you, right?
Yes.
So you took, again, that investment in the duplex. You all
Mm-hmm.
only took it for 2 years, but
Mm-hmm.
that 2 years was able to provide income, cover that mortgage. And
Mm-hmm.
even though you all still took from the retirement, you all were able to buy another home. And in the case of you buying that other home, you were able to even increase your second cash flow,
Mm-hmm.
your duplex cash flow, and
Mm-hmm.
still be able to help yourselves in that time of need. But even if we think back to it, like if you all were to stay within your means and not buy that second
Yes.
property, you all would have really been cash flowing, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes. Yes.
because now you would have had two incomes coming in from the duplex, and you would have had
Yes.
and you would have had all of that equity in the home. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a learning process, and that's kind of what I want to make sure everybody is learning here. So let me know in the comments if y'all are like really understanding what's happening here. You know, if y'all are, what's y'all takeaways on this? Because being able to live within your means for now, to get to where you are, to build that equity and be able to pull out that equity for anybody who may not know, when you purchase a house, right, and you own, let's just say you purchased the house for 100,000 and that's your loan amount. Over time, as we know, values of land and properties usually go up. So the difference of what it is at the time that it goes up from what you owe is your equity, right? So if you bought it for 100,000 and then all of a sudden 2 years later it's worth $150,000, now you have $50,000 worth of equity, and you can take
Mm-hmm.
that out, i.e., borrow against it to go ahead and purchase other properties, which is what they did.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, girl.
That's what we
Okay.
did.
Okay. So now y'all are in this smaller home, and then you said you got on fire. You got on fire
Yeah,
for
we
real
got on
estate, right?
fire. I started attending real estate investment seminars and just really investing in that knowledge and that learning and being in those environments with that energy and that, everybody's working together to do the same kind of thing. So we were attending those regularly. And
Mm-hmm.
with that, you begin to meet people. And that same realtor that sold us that very first property in DC, it was in Washington DC,
Mm-hmm.
the 2 unit. We circled back to him, and just our relationship with him just began to form to the point to where he would
Mm,
start telling us about different properties and opportunities, and
mm,
we'd be like, hold on, let me see how I can get the money together. So it's like he became, those relationships. If you can get into relationships with realtors who, because all realtors are not the same, but ones who have more of an
mhm,
investment mindset with it,
mhm,
then they can be very helpful with you meeting your goals with the types of purchases you. So he helped us more so with traditional, well, even with flips too, because he would tell
mm,
us about properties that need repairs that he come across and things like that. So yeah, that relationship really produced a lot for us having, and that came from the very first, purchase that we made. But well, which was typically an investment property,
right,
but we were owner occupants. So that being one of his listings,
right,
we didn't even still seek him out like that, but it just turned into that he was investment minded type of real
right.
estate company. And so that helped us a lot. And through going to the meetings, we learned different information, and putting all that together, we began to do some flips of
Mm,
properties. And with the
mhm,
flipping of a property, unlike a buy and hold, you're just basically going in to get chunks of cash as
right,
opposed to build equity and get tax breaks and all of those kinds of things
right,
when you buy and hold the property. So
right.
yeah, we began to do some flipping of properties, and that was a whole interesting journey. But of course, that provided chunks of cash, and with that chunks of cash, we could begin to do different things. Pay for different things that we needed to pay for without having to have debt, and then
Mm,
also get another property. We always want to get another property. So
mhm,
we looked into getting other properties, and so yeah, we bought some, sold some, flipped some. It just one thing led to the other that led to another person that we would meet, and then we would learn some more information, and yeah, it kind of went like that.
And that's a good piece of advice too, is to make sure that you connect, right?
Mhm.
Because you never know who is connected to who is connected to who is connected to who, right? Because
Right.
that's exactly how we met.
Yes.
Right? That's exactly how we met. For anybody who, well, I'm sure nobody knows, but but for everybody who doesn't know, we met only probably like 2 months ago, right?
Yes.
Probably like
Yes.
2 months ago, and
Yes.
we met through two mutual people. So everybody that's on LinkedIn joining us live from LinkedIn, um, I was in a summit. I believe this was the first summit that I was in, that I participated in. There was a woman that reached out to me, because the host of that summit connected us. And in the connection with, making with her, she connected me with Pamela. And now we're sitting here today because she was like, I really think that y'all could work something together. Y'all can talk about, and we got on a call one day and we were just talking, and we were like, oh, we can do this. Like,
Yes.
let's
Yes.
go ahead and make this happen. So the connections are so important too, right? Because again, you don't know who you're going to meet, and in that learning, all of the stuff that you can learn through everybody, I mean, it can grow you into a whole different, other possibilities. Like you said, the realtor that you had, he was more of an investor. And so he was able to connect you to other investors and other realtors and probably other brokers and lenders and things like that, which just opened up your opportunities even more
Yes.
into the real estate journey. So even though you all were new into the real estate journey, you were connected with so many more experienced people who were able to guide you, again, going back to the guidance. And then you were able to get that knowledge and apply it to be able to grow your portfolio even more. So, and again, you're doing this all while working,
Yes,
all with 3
all while
kids,
working. Yes,
right?
yes. Both of us. He had a little stint of unemployment, but pretty much not. We've been working the whole time. Yeah.
Right. So it's not, I think some people get overwhelmed, they may think that, how am I going to do all of this, and I'm working and I'm doing this, but you have to take the time. It's that, again, starting with that mindset, like you have to decide this is what I want to do. I need to make these investments now so that I can live the life that I want to live in the future. Right.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay, get it back to your story, because you got a lot.
Right.
A lot in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said you had you were doing flips, you were getting chunks of cash and everything. You were able to pay down debt. That's something else that you were saying, or remain debt free. So was that one of the strategies that you all were going for when you were doing these flips? Like, because I know flipping, for everybody who may not know, and again, drop y'all questions in the chat, because towards the end we want to definitely answer any questions that you all have. But flipping houses is when you purchase a house that's not in good condition or not the best condition. You invest in it, you rehab it, and then you go and sell it on the market shortly thereafter, right? And based on the profit that you make, you flip the house. So you took it from old to pretty, or ugly to pretty, right? And then you sold it. And then you're getting a big chunk of that change from whatever the profit is of you selling that house and the rehab costs and everything like that. So you were doing flips and you were able to pay down debt and everything like that. But was that a part of your strategy? Like, if you thinking back, if you were, just working your 9 to 5, do you really feel like that would have been something that you would have been able to do? I don't know how much debt you all had back then, but
wow, if I were just working my 9 to 5, I would say not as easily. It would have been a much more drawn out process of paying off things. That kind of would, the chunk would be like, okay, bam, that's done. It's taken care of. So I would say it would have just been a longer thing. You could certainly do it, like many people do, but it would have certainly taken a lot longer, I think, from what I did then to pay that debt off. Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
So it's not necessarily like, I never thought of the real estate investing per se to pay off debt. So from way back when, I always say I'm retiring at 40. I retired after 40, but that was always my thing. I'm retiring at 40, retiring at 40, I'm retired at 40, I'm retired at 40. So it was always to get to what's called financial independence, to where I did not have to work. That was anything that could get me to that place, to where my income coming in from my investments was more than my expenses that I had. It would cover it all, and so that work became optional.
Right.
That was what I was always working toward. So of course, along the way, paying off debt then frees up more of my money, to be able to. So it was indirectly a strategy, I would say, more than just like I'm gonna sell. I don't ever remember just thinking I'm buying properties to pay off debt, but it
Right.
certainly came into play for the
Right.
overall financial picture, which was to,
Yes.
enough
Eh,
coming in.
right. And see, oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Repeat that part one more time. I think you froze just a little bit.
Oh, did I freeze? Okay, I
Just a
said,
little bit. Just a little bit.
okay, yeah. So while it was not necessarily buying properties to say, I'm going to buy this property to pay off debt, it was still indirectly a part of the
Mhm,
whole strategy, because by paying off debt, then I freed up some cash flow that then
mhm.
allowed me to have more money that, would allow me to invest or what have you to cover what I would need to cover so I could leave that job.
Right. And I want to ask this. I think, well, yeah, this will probably, we'll see what happens. This will probably be my last question, but how hard would you say that it was to manage, your life, being a mother, being a wife, and doing real estate?
Mm. Well, I will be honest, I did suffer some mom guilt along the way.
Oh.
Mom guilt along the way because I just the way I'm wired, I was always pursuing things outside of my 9 to 5.
Mhm.
Yeah, I became a realtor even. So I could
Mhm.
just be able to, a lot of times the motivation behind me becoming a realtor was so that I could search the multiple listing service without having to ask anybody else.
Right.
But
Right.
also I did sell a home or two along the way. But I always did have something else going. So I would
Mhm.
say that it was a little bit challenging to balance it all. It
Mhm.
was. It was. I cannot tell a lie. It was. But I check in with my young adult children regularly about that. They very much know that that's how mom was, but they all seem to be very much, our relationships are really, really good.
Mm.
They don't seem scarred or anything. I'm so grateful to God. They don't seem like you would never had time for us. They don't ever say anything like that.
Right.
So I was very aware of the pull, which I
Mm.
think some people can go along blindly. So I was fortunate I was aware of the pull. And I did do what I could to kind of try to keep all of the balls rolling at the same time. So it can be done, but you just gotta try to put prioritize and find a way to make it all work. My husband and
Mhm.
I, we work very much as a team, and so that helped a lot. It did help a lot, in that he could, when neither one of us was usually free enough for the kids.
Right.
One was tied up than the other, and that vice versa. So and then they did come along on the journey sometimes. They sat over there and colored, and did different things. So it was a journey, but it can be done. You definitely have to be very intentional though about your prioritization, and because you'll look up and you'll be like, no, wait a minute, I'm doing
Right.
all of this for my family. I certainly don't want to mess around and
And
you know
miss them.
miss them,
Mhm.
trying to do all of this for them.
Right.
That's the
Right.
craziest thing.
And that's a good point that you also brought up, is that you actually introduce your children into the real estate. So
Yeah,
you introduce them into real estate.
yeah.
So how have, knowing that they're now adult children, how are they now? Are they into real estate? Are they how
Mm,
are they with real
they're
estate?
not so, they are not yet. Like
Not yet.
they're young. They're in the lower 20, like they're not ready to launch out to purchase yet. But I'm
Okay.
already, they know their mom. They're like their
Right.
first property. They are going to have somebody paying part of that property rent. Like they already know. Like we're
Right.
looking for ways. Now, and one thing I can say now, it can be a little bit more challenging to
Mhm.
get properties that way. So then you have to use other creative strategies where you rent rooms, or you might have a basement that you can rent, or you might live in a kind of area where they have those little units in the back that you
The
can
ADUs, the
use. Yeah.
additional dwelling units. Yeah.
Yes. So those are other ways when you find that you don't have necessarily that duplex situation or that fourplex situation
Mhm.
that's in your price range, or where you live, you just might not have that set up too much. So
Right.
anyway, my daughter now lives in Dallas, Texas, and you know, out they're kind of like, I think sometimes that's the thing, when you're a child of somebody who's done something, sometimes you're like, oh my God, I don't even know if I want to do all of that, mom. I think they feel a little bit like that, but they actually do know that it is good,
A
so it's like,
possibility, and they
yeah,
know it's a possibility.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah,
that's a good thing, because some people don't know. They don't even introduce their children to these things, or their children are just, I mean, even it just reminds me of the book of Ecclesiastes. I was going to say Ephesians. It reminds me of the book of Ecclesiastes, where he's saying that there's really, you could do anything in this world, but you can't determine what somebody else is going to do, right? So
right,
so
right,
you can teach your children everything, and all of these things, but ultimately, I mean, we really need to be focused on what God needs us to be doing. But
yes,
the thing though is that you still open up their eyes to this opportunity, and
yes,
that's what your father did for you. He
yes,
opened up your eyes to this opportunity, and it's still up to you to make
mm-hmm,
the decision and have that mindset that, you know what, I'm going to take this advice and I'm going to run with it,
yes,
because I know what I want for my future and what I want to see happen for me and my family. So
mm-hmm,
I think that even, I know some parents may think like, well, my child don't want to do that, or, I don't really know nothing. This is that time where, again, just overall, and this is why I really love
mm-hmm,
your story, is because again, you took a piece of advice, you decided on it, you partnered with your husband, you all made it work for you all, even though, yes, sometimes it wasn't easy, which, I
mm-hmm.
mean, even just being an employee, period, is just not easy, right?
Oh,
So
right,
so it's kind of like pick your battles, how you want
yes,
to be an employee for 20 years longer than you need to be, or do you want to be a very, very hardworking employee, but have another stream of income coming in from a different investment that you are
mm-hmm,
making. Do you really want to invest in something else in order to kind of build that portfolio and build that lifestyle that you're wanting? Because
mm-hmm.
I mean, just as you said it, your husband's retirement funded that. So if he wasn't an employee in the first place, he wouldn't have even been able to purchase.
Right,
You would have had to wait a longer time. So I
mm-hmm.
think, again, some people, they get caught up in just being an employee, but you're able to maximize your employer benefits to be able
Absolutely,
to utilize and
mm-hmm,
grow whatever it is that you want, whether or not you
mm-hmm,
invest that into a business or into real estate, as Pam did. You
mm-hmm,
have options to do these things. So
mm-hmm.
there's so many ways to get into real estate. What would your number one be, advice for getting into real estate? Would it be to do a duplex, or would it be, what, knowing that you've
Right,
you've done different things, flips, and you've probably did the Bird method, which is buy, rent, repeat. I forgot the other one.
refinance.
Refinance and repeat, right?
Yeah, yep, yep. Definitely did some birds. I would say the number one way, the way I love the most, is exactly what we did, which now has become known as house hacking. But
Mm-hmm.
like I said, the way we did it, depending upon where you live and depending upon your budget, it just seems like it can be more challenging now. But
Mm-hmm.
like I said, there are other ways to still house hack that I just described, where you can look into, renting rooms or renting your basement or having an ADU in the back, or those are other ways that can still make it a way that you can, if you can, while you can. Um, and when I say while you can, because sometimes, you might have just too many kids, or, whatever. But if you can take advantage of an opportunity to cut down your housing expense by having someone else pay part of it, the house
Mm-hmm.
that you live in, your your
Right.
your primary dwelling, I think that is the absolute best way to get into it.
Right.
However, if that's not the case for you, then of course that house that you live in, can that then become a rental property for you? I think that's another entryway that a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people take. It might be their first home or one of their homes. They then convert into it becoming an investment property or rental property, and they go on to live somewhere else.
Right.
They have that home that hopefully, usually, you buy it with your lower interest rate and all of that, so that you do have some positive cash flow above the amount of the mortgage, to where,
Right.
and then of course, cash flow is just one of the parts of the benefits. There are other benefits as well.
Yes. Other benefits, especially if you I mean, if you are using it as a business,
Mhm.
because if you're, if you have an LLC or
Mhm.
anything like that, and you're actually writing off those expenses, that also
Mhm.
helps you. So
Mhm.
because now now you have the what is it, the all different types mortgage
Yeah.
insurance, any expenses that come
Yeah.
along with
Absolutely.
having to maintain the house and everything. That's all business expenses, because obviously you need
Mhm.
those for the tenant. So
Mhm. And one of the
they become,
mhm.
yeah, they become part of your business. So
Yeah.
like Pam said, there's so many different ways to get into real estate. I mean, now you have crowdfunding options.
You
um
do. You
yep,
do.
you have like Fundrise, and I gotta go back and look at what this guy's thing is. Do you remember the one that who is it? Is it Bezos that he opened?
Oh no, I'm not. I don't know. I know Fundrise because I actually started contributing to Fundrise. I was like, let me just try this out and see how it
Yeah,
works.
me
I don't
too.
have a lot of data on it yet, but there is Fundrise. But no, I don't know the names of some of the others. I
There's
don't.
the other one. There's other ones, and I know there are other ones, but Fundrise is, I think, one of like the oldest ones, that are the more
Mhm.
established ones that are out there.
Mhm.
And really what that is that you're investing into somebody else who already has a portfolio, right? So
Mhm.
Fundrise has portfolios of homes and corporate buildings, um and I don't know if they have land, but they have different, properties that you can invest in.
Mhm.
And you're not necessarily buying any properties or anything. You're just investing in that, and when they get their returns, they're paying you back for those. So we have a question: what type of crowdfunding? So real estate.
In real
Yes, so
estate.
real estate
Mhm.
crowdfunding. Yeah. So like I said, let me look it up real quick. Let me see if I can find the other one with Jeff Bezos. I think it's called Arrive. That's what it's
That,
called.
that definitely sounds familiar. Yes.
Arrive. Yes.
Mhm.
R I
Mhm.
R ARRIVE.
Yes.
Arrive. I think that's what it's called. Um Fundrise. And like I said, there are others, but I think that
Mhm.
they require you to be an accredited investor, which
Mhm.
means that you have to have a certain amount of money, and you have to
Right.
show that you are experienced investor, essentially.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
if you are an experienced investor or you are accredited, there are different avenues
Right.
for you as
And
well.
that's one of the accomplishments along the way. I became an accredited investor, which opens up a lot more opportunities. So there's a progression. There's a way but you start. Like we talked a lot tonight about the start.
Yes.
And it can just catapult you into just more and just great things.
Amen. Yes, it sure can. There's a lot of, I mean, I've been learning about, there's actually companies out there, and I know this is my sis Andrea's father in the YouTube. Um in Proverbs 13:22, I know that we're going to meet somebody. But there are actually companies out there that will pretty much do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, you know,
Okay.
into certain markets. So there's agencies, real estate agencies out there where you're they will find the properties for you, they'll vet them for you, they'll
Mhm.
negotiate on your behalf, and you're essentially just putting down the money,
Mhm.
and they're finding tenants and all that other stuff, and
Mhm.
you're kind of just doing the property management to a bare minimum, pretty much,
Mhm.
type
Yeah.
of thing, with government funding. So Section 8 properties, I know that a lot of people have kind of a bad taste in their mouth from Section 8,
Mhm.
but Section 8 is guaranteed funding. So, on the government's portion anyway. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many options out there,
Yeah.
y'all. There's so
Yeah.
many options.
Absolutely.
And you could do this while working. You can do this while working. It
Right.
doesn't always, I think, another thing that some people think is that real estate, you have to invest 50, 30, hundreds and ten thousands of dollars, but really and truly, you don't necessarily need to. Like you said, you can just start with the property that you have right now.
Yes.
If you do have property. And again, like we talked about in the beginning, even if you don't want to start on the traditional route with just buying a single family home, you can
Mhm.
go ahead and do the duplex route.
Mhm.
Um, where even if you wanted to fix it, flip it, or whatever the case is, that's still a way that you can get
Mhm.
into real estate with the money that you are already going to spend on a primary home.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
um, yeah, you have options. There are options, people. There are
Yes, you
options. There
always
are options. There are
have
options. And guess what? Some employers also, some employers out there, they offer a lot of benefits. I know that I spoke to a woman the other day, and she said, "You know what? I'm going to use the stock that the company gave me,
to.
and
Love
I
it.
am going to go ahead and use that to put a down payment on my next house." So
Love it.
using the listen, you have options. Y'all have
Yes,
options, okay?
yes.
Some
And sometimes
companies
you're
give
working for these companies, you like, well, I work for Amazon in the warehouse, but you still work for Amazon. What kind of stock stuff do they have for y'all? You work for
exactly.
Walmart. You work
Yes,
for Walmart. Walmart is a Fortune 500 company. What kind of stock do they are they offer you anything? You
mm-hmm,
know, sometimes you think because you work at some places that are not considered glamorous, that and you might be like at a level that's not in corporate. What do they have?
exactly. That's exactly, and that's why we have wealthy employees. Because
Yes.
we need to make sure that we understand what our benefits are at the company and utilize and maximize them and leverage them for what we want, so that we can retire early, right? So Pamela, I just want to, I know that we're coming up on time, right? So I want to ask, I think this is my last question now, for real, for real.
Okay,
I
sure.
think this is going to be my last question for real. But what is it that, how are you living now? In retirement, do you feel like you're living comfortably? Are you all, living off of the retirement funds? Are you all, how are you feeling now that you're retired and that you retired early?
Yeah, it was a it was a scary move. I'll be honest with you because you become so accustomed to the every 2 week or whatever your pay is, and I worked for the federal government, which at that time, you know, we're in a different political climate that is really crazy at the moment, but at that time it was a very secure job, and
Hmm.
so just that security blanket kind of being a little bit not there in that way, you know, was a little bit like, oh my God, what am I doing? However, you know, I thank God because my rental property cash flow has really been the has made up for the difference in me not being able to really touch my retirement money from my
Yeah.
401k
Hmm.
without a penalty. So, you know, because I don't have the age to get that, which is 59 and a half, I kind of couldn't factor that into my income.
Retirement journey,
Yeah,
right?
I couldn't factor that in yet. So,
Hmm.
you know, I had to basically have enough coming in. And so my husband does still work. And then I have the rental property money coming in. And then I do have the part of my retirement that was the pension part. I do get a part of that. So putting all that together, you know, it's good. I of course I'm because I'm still not, you know, I'm still young and energetic and healthy. You know, I'm now pursuing more things that are more my passion, and it is more
Hmm.
of a work optional type of status. Because I will sometimes take on some contract jobs for some months, and then when I'm done, I'm like, I'm done. You know, I don't want to do that anymore. So it's just a level of flexibility now
Mm,
to, you know, I can decide, no, I'll do that. No, I don't want to do that. So I don't have to.
right.
And all my bills are paid.
Exactly.
You know,
That part.
you know, it's like I don't have to, and all my bills are paid. You know, we can get the things that we need to get done, and then I can decide what you know, income opportunities to come about. I decide upon, and I'm
Mm,
building my coaching practice, which is my passion. So you
mm,
know, it's just it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
yes. And I love that you said that too, and that you mentioned that, because I think some people don't think about that. When
Mhm,
you retire early, you have that gap in between
mhm,
when you can actually, I mean, you can technically start withdrawing from your retirement account, but you're going to be penalized at
mhm,
10%, right? So if you
mhm,
take out too early, so if you retire at age 50, you still
mhm.
got 9.5 years before you can start taking
Yeah,
out that money without that penalty. So what are you going to supplement that income with, right?
yeah.
And you all, again, like you said, you had the
Mhm,
rental income coming in to supplement
mhm,
you for that. So that just goes to show you how strong of
mhm.
strong of a income source that rentals can be. I mean, and
Yeah,
again, it doesn't necessarily have to be rentals. It can be just investments, any investments that you make. But
that's exactly right. Yeah.
right. It's able, you have to think about all of this when you're
Mhm.
retiring, right? And you
Right.
also of course want to think about your lifestyle, and what kind of lifestyle you want. I mean, even though you want
Mhm.
to retire, are you trying to be like Pamela where it's like, yeah, I may still work a little bit but not that much, like,
Mhm.
or are you really trying to get a stable, another piece of income just because, as
Mhm.
part-time? You want to think about all of these things, but
Mhm.
it's been an honor, really and truly, to sit and like really talk with you. I know it's Friday night. I know people are probably like, "Girl, we ready to start the weekend. We don't want to talk about work no more." But we definitely want you to go into the weekend thinking about this. Thinking about what is it that I can actually do. What is it that I can actually maximize, and what is it that my employer is actually offering that I may just not even be aware of that I can take advantage of right now. um so definitely going into the weekend, I want y'all to think about this. Pam, I want you to please let everybody know where they can find you, if they wanted to speak with you, or just your handles or anything.
Okay, sure. So I do have a website, PamelaHReed.com.
Hmm.
No dots in the middle, but PamelaHReed.com is my website. And then on Instagram, I'm at Pamela H. Reed. And Facebook, I mean, I guess, Facebook is, I'm up there, but it's more like not so much relating to to this kind of stuff per se. But I'm Pamela Hardy Reed on Facebook. So
Hmm.
those are three ways that you can definitely reach out to me, and I would love to hear from you and answer any questions, talk more with you about whatever it is that you want interested in. We talk primarily about real estate, but it's been several other things I've done.
Hmm.
So I'm here for it.
Yes,
For
yes.
you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, again, we don't want to take up any more of y'all time. Let me just make sure. I think Instagram already cut us out because we went at the hour, but that's okay though. I'm just gonna make sure if there's any other questions out here before we let Pam go. And if y'all do have any other questions, you could definitely send them over to hello@wealthyemployees.com. I will definitely either pass them over to Pam if they're directly to her, or if you all wanted to, like I said, if I can answer them, I will definitely answer them. But yeah, I thank you so much for
Oh, you're
joining
welcome.
this night. I thank you for taking out your time to just really share your experience and share the way that you got into real estate, and just the mindset that you had, the strategy that you had, just how it opened up. Yes, congratulations. And just how it opened up so many other opportunities for y'all. Definitely so happy that you are retired happily, that you have that flexibility, that you've reached that financial independence, that we are all definitely looking for. I'm just very honored to have you as a guest. I can't wait to have you back. I can't wait to see who comes next either. I am
Mhm.
just excited, excited for this series. So I just thank
You're
you.
welcome. It was
Yes.
a pleasure.
And
I
if
love it.
anybody, like I said, if y'all have any questions, go ahead and send them over to hello@wealthyemployees.com. But if there is nothing else, and if there's nothing else that you want to share, Pam, then I think we could call it a night.
All right. It's been great. I love it. I thank you for the opportunity. And ha- hey, we might see each other again soon. Who
I
knows?
know that's right.
All right.
Thank y'all. Night. Have a great night.
Good night. Good night. Good night.